Hey, hi, hello, welcome to episode 104 of Trail Society, brought to you by Rabbit. I'm Corinne Malcolm,
And I'm Hillary Allen.
and Keely is blissfully 5 days removed from Western States, currently taking quizzes and exams at medical school. So we gave her a pass today.
I know she's been working hard.
She's been
So, and
working hard.
I'm in a different time zone right now, so it's actually kind of hard to coordinate.
Yeah, yeah, our lives are, we're in the chaotic time of the year for sure, where we're all in different time zones, and it is what it is. Before we hit record, you told me a little bit about your travel whirlwind. You're in Corsica, but it sounds like it was not a smooth journey to get there.
Oh goodness. I mean, it turns out, you know this, Corinne, from some of the coolest races like Transvolcania. It's like, minimum three flights and maybe potentially a ferry ride to get here. So that's like the race that I chose. I've done the GR20. Turns out it's easier to get to Corsica when you already are like based in Europe, but like getting here from the United States is it's very far. It's worth it, but yeah, basically just a very long extended travel day combined with like thunderstorms in Colorado. Put everything kind of in a major delay. But that's what thinking on your feet and basically rebooking things while you're in the air can actually come in handy. So I did get here and it's so amazing. I've like I said, I have been to Corsica a few times. I've done the whole GR20. It's an incredibly mountainous place. It's in the Mediterranean right above Sardinia. It's a French island. Um, but it is incredibly technical, rocky. It is very hot. Europe is having a heat wave. So it's going to be an adventure. I was also just telling Corinne that the my race pace for this race is going to be like relatively slow, but it's a very technical race. I think if I do really well, it'd be like about 4 miles an hour.
Heck yeah. Or I'm like, I can do that. That's great.
I mean, it's very steep, it's very technical, and I'm so excited. It just feels like a welcome treat from like the races that I've been doing this year. So, just something different. I'm really excited. So,
That's
yeah.
like running in the Cascades where Caitlin Gervin and I were 2 hours into a run a couple weeks ago and we're like, sick, just hit 8 miles.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I love those runs. I've definitely run out there with, well, yeah, near playground. It's, oh my gosh, it's awesome. And then, I mean, yeah, and I had just like, seems like a whirlwind. I'm on the other side of the world, but I literally just saw you in TrailCon
I know, I
in
saw you. I know. I,
California.
I didn't see enough of you at TrailCon. It was, I feel like I was hiding away for much of those 2 days because
Yeah.
I knew how crazy Thursday, Friday, Saturday was going to be for me.
Saving your voice. Yeah.
How was TrailCon? You were on a panel.
Yeah, it was so great. I mean, it's really cool to see how much it's grown even from last year. And I thought I was going to be able to stay for Western because I've never been. But at least I got to stay for TrailCon. I'm getting closer. Like, so I'm actually was there for the weekend. I actually stayed after Broken Arrow. I was there for TrailCon. Super awesome. And just being able to see all the people. I hope it grows more. And then I had to leave before Western so I could gather my things and get over here.
We'll allow it. One thing we did get to do though is we got to do a small photo shoot.
Oh yeah.
I did a photo shoot with you. I think it was Tuesday night, and then or when I don't even know what day of the week
I
it
don't
is
know.
anymore. And then Keely and I grabbed some shots on Friday before the athlete meeting. We got to shoot in the new rabbit apparel that comes out
Oh,
today,
oh my goodness. It's
July
so
15th.
cute. I love it so
Yes.
much.
So we got to shoot in the new singlet, which is like the race top, it feels
Hmm.
like. We got to see the ice bandana, which is in the beautiful print of the new kind of muscle tee, which to me feels more
Hmm.
like a training top. Keely did run Western States in it, but I think like
Hmm.
the material's super soft, but I think it's more of like a training top. It's super, super
Mm.
comfy. I got to put it on for the Friday photo shoot. There's a sun hoodie that's beautiful. Keely raced in the shorts. And if you listened to episode 103, she made that decision because she was going to be on her period during the race. And she was like, black
Nice.
shorts. It
There
is,
we go.
but and they're beautiful. Like any other takeaways from just like getting to see the product in real life, IRL?
Um, yeah, IRL. It was so cool because I remember us having this conversation of like wanting to work with women-owned brands, at the beginning of the year, and then, us wanting to kind of put something out into the world. with our little logo on it too. So it's really cool to have a collaboration and seeing our little like logo and then on the amazing rabbit gear. It's just cool to see it come to life. But it's yeah, it's all really comfy. I mean, I have been loving wearing the 3-inch split shorts. I haven't been much of like a split short kind of gal until I've experienced some of the rabbit ones. So yeah, that's been cool. But yeah, overall just like super psyched. I can't wait for it to be out in the world, out in the
Yeah.
wild.
So I think today is the first day that you can get your hands on it, and it's going to be on their website with the code. Again, the code for the month of July is STATES10. So STATES 10. And that will get you 10% off, a celebration of Keely running Western States, finishing ninth there. And do it. I mean, the finish line photos, she's in the trail, like the trail tights with the pockets, and you've got our little Trail Society logo like on the
Mm,
leg. It's so, so cool. So again,
amazing.
go over to runningrabbit.com, check it out, grab a shirt, grab some shorts. The crew neck I also got to wear on Friday, and it is
Mm.
I'm getting one and I will be living in it. So um yeah, I think you guys are gonna really, really like it. Let us know what you think. But speaking of split shorts,
Mm.
Hilly, I mean, we buried the lead a little bit in this whole thing. We talked about it briefly on 103, but you couldn't be on that episode. Um, I just want to set this up in the sense that like I was out for a run, I think, on Friday, and I
Yep.
like got back to my phone and I had all these messages from you and Keely, and I was kind of fumbling around with my device, and I was like, oh, like what did I miss? Like what fire do we have to put out? Like what scheduling nonsense do we have to do? And instead, it's this photo of you, I think, in those split shorts,
Yeah.
draped in the American flag because you made the frickin' world championship team. So, what the heck happened at the Broken Arrow Ascent?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was just so thrilled. Okay, so I came into the weekend preparing to run the Triple Crown, right? So the Broken Arrow Ascent is like, the first of the races. And it was not really on my radar. I mean, like I've done well in the past there. I've gotten second to Allie Mack a few times, which
She's pretty
she's,
good at running uphill.
amazing. And I mean, my times have been like pretty good, comparably if you look at like, from mine versus some of the other times that people have thrown down there. So I was like, okay, like maybe I have a chance. And but like that was kind of the only thought. I was like, man, no pressure, no expectation. Just go out there and like literally the VK is the simplest thing I have to do is just run hard. Taste pennies, run hard. It's like it's really so simple and it's in what it is, in its essence. And that's exactly what I did. And well, I mean, they shortened the course too. So it's like at first I thought I had a chance for the original like 5K course, but then they shortened it to about 2 miles and like just under 2,000 feet. And I was like, okay, I don't think so. Like all these, like if you look at the start list, there's so amazing people that have showed up that have the incredible pedigrees from, their track background and everything. And I'm like,
Anna Gibson, you know,
I know.
teammate,
I mean,
Brooks' teammate,
she's the
Anna
queen. Yeah.
Gibson.
But even people like her, like, people who have a lot of leg speed and like have like come from shorter running backgrounds are specific to like shorter trail races and they don't do ultras. And here I am coming off of, for the past 4 or 5 years, been exclusively training for like long ultras, like 100K, 100 miles. And this year I kind of was like, I need to switch it up. And then I don't know, I started the Ascent race and it was kind of funny because I thought I was in like 20th place maybe. 'Cause it's just like there's like bodies
It's a
everywhere.
mass start
Oh,
up a ski slope, men and women all together. It is
hmm.
chaos.
You exactly. And so I could not tell. And I was just, just like leaning into the effort of like running hard. I saw I knew Anna was ahead. I knew another Sydney Peterson, like we were running together at first and she was like, I could see her. So I was like, okay, like, I know she's an extremely talented uphill runner. So I'm like, okay, like just, keep her in sight. And it hurts to keep going. And then somewhere along the way, this guy, Adam Chase, he's like, oh, Hillary, you're an eighth. And I'm like, oh, okay, like top 10. That's really good. And I'm like, just don't focus on that. Just keep going. And honestly, then I like look because it had been like, it's super steep, then a fire road and kind of runnable. And then it gets to like literally this wall where you're just like power hiking uphill. And I literally think to myself, I'm like, Oh, hell yeah. Like I'm just like, let's go hunting. And then I saw like two women ahead of me, just like right there. And I was like, all right, let's go get him, Hill. And then, just kind of like put into the climbing mode. And that's kind of where I made my move. And I had no idea what position or place I was in. I actually recognized, I didn't know it until I like passed Jim Walmsley screaming at Jess. But I didn't know it was Jess until I passed her. And then at the end of the race, like had passed Janelle. But then at that point, I guess I had like gone into the third American position, and I didn't even know until I crossed the finish line. And Andy Wacker was like, "Hillary, you made the world's team." And then I looked at him, I was like, don't you dare tell me something that's not true. And then because I was like, no freaking way. And then Jess, she came across the finish line and like she was celebrating, and then I was just like, okay, it's real. And I just kind of burst into tears because I don't know, Corinne, it kind of means a lot.
It's been a journey. It's been a
With
journey, right? And
Yeah,
people think of you as this 100-mile athlete, but like I know you as this sky runner. And that's how
yeah,
we met, is on the sky was on the
yeah,
Sky Running World Series. And
yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why your name is Hilly Goat. Buzz Burrell and I were talking about this on a run up
Buzz.
to the escarpment
Yeah.
during TrailCon, and I was like, "There's a reason why your name is Hilly Goat. I have been dropped on more climbs than I can count by you, and I have to remind myself that I'm not shitty at this. It's like
No.
you are just really really good at going uphill, one of the best in the world, in fact. And so I just like want to put that out there that like this should mean a lot to you, but also like
Yeah.
this has always been there. You've always been capable of this, and I'm so excited to see you do your thing.
Thank you. And it's like, oh gosh, it just means so much too, because like I think I'm discovering I think we like to put ourselves in a box. And I think it's like I was so focused on the ultra distance. I've had success there. Like, I've run some really good 100-mile races and some really good 100K and 80K. Um, and it's really cool to kind of just like go back to my roots, or like where it all started, and to kind of re-engage with some speed, because that's actually been really hard to do. And after the accident, like I've been trying to work really hard on that portion of my running, and it feels like it hasn't been able to click until recently. And then also like to do this at Broken Arrow, like Broken Arrow was my first race coming back after this big fall in 2017. My first ever race back was the Broken Arrow Ascent. And that's when I got second to Ally Mack, and it kind of was like, oh, whoa, like, I could still kind of run. And then, yeah, so then to just do this, like, to like make the world's teams, like, in the last world team I was on was like the long distance one, like 9 years ago. So what the heck? It's like, it's so cool. And, I'm just incredibly thrilled. And, now my whole season has changed, and I'm just like, this is awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you're in Corsica. You're doing like what, a 40-ish mile race?
Yeah, 40
Okay.
mile race. So I had picked this, I
Chill.
put this on my
Super chill.
calendar. Well, I know I put this on my calendar at the very beginning of the year because I was like, okay, 40 miles. It's like not terribly long, but it's long. And this course, like I was saying earlier, previous like wintering times have been between like 10 and 11 hours for women. So it's like it's very technical, it's very steep. I think in those 40 miles we climbed 13,000 feet. So climbing legs, let's go. But I wanted to do this because it's been just a bucket list like race to maybe qualify for one of the UTMB races next year, but mostly just to have fun and have just a different like race to train for. Um,
Hilly to OCC in 2026. I love it.
let's go. Oh my God, how cool would that be?
They're
Let's
pretty
do it.
dope. Okay, but so you're talking about this, like we know that your schedule was going to include things like the 50-50 at
Hmm.
Squamish. So like
Yep.
now that you are on the vertical team for Worlds at the end of September, what is post Corsica? What does the rest of the season look like for you?
Right. So I'm gonna take a little bit of like some recovery time and downtime and just like reset, because I feel like I've been racing since, March. And I kind of had a big race in February. So I think I need a little bit of time to kind of like, okay, let's recover from this long effort. And then yeah, unfortunately, I've had to send some exciting but sad emails to say like, thank you so much, but unfortunately I won't be able to come to your race this year. The Squamish 50-50 being one of them. Um, but it's actually also exciting because, making the world's team, and then I'm gonna do some like uphill races. I'm gonna do some Cirque Series races. And so like using them as kind of like some fun workouts just to be with, different people. My sister's getting married August 3rd, and there's a race in Vail on August 2nd, so I'm gonna do that one. Um, so like little stuff like close to home, and then a really cool race actually that I saw because you know, I just, to practice just running uphill. There's a race, it's called the Veins of Gold. It's in Alaska,
Sick.
and I have a friend who it's outside of Anchorage. And I have a friend who lives in Anchorage, so I'm just gonna go up there. It's an 8 mile race with 5,000 feet of gain.
D dude, the Alaska like weeknight, basically like VK series is super,
Exactly.
super cool. So I think that
Yeah.
I follow along with it. I've got a bunch of Alaskan friends from being a
Of
skier, and
course.
they're like,
Yeah.
I follow Denali. She's amazing. And like
Yeah.
yeah, the racing that they have in their literal backyard outside of
It's
Anchorage
so
is
cool.
really cool. So
Yeah. So just like adding in some cool things like that. And then
Mount Marathon 2026. I'm calling your
I-
shot now.
see, there we go. I know. Sadly, I'm missing it because it's this weekend. Well, the same weekend as my Corsica race. But yeah, like, and it's I don't know. I'm just really excited to just have some different races, some short races, just like really no pressure because they're just like workouts, and then um, yeah, to go to Worlds, and then that'll kind of be the end of my season. So
Yeah, I'm so excited. Okay. We have
yay.
to shift gears a little bit, but we just wanted to celebrate you. We'll continue to celebrate you, and I can't wait to hear about Worlds when we get closer to September as well. So,
Woohoo.
super thrilled.
Thanks,
Today, we've got a
Corinne.
really fun interview for everyone. We sat down with two incredible women, both of whom are involved in the nonprofit Sportswomen of Colorado. They're moms, they're coaches, and most importantly, they're like women's sports enthusiasts. Like that's what they do. Hilly met them through her work with the Sportswomen of Colorado Foundation, including being a keynote speaker with them. But the two women we're sitting down with are Jen Anderson-Ehrlich. She's a nonprofit leader, educator, and movement specialist who is driven by a deep belief in the power of sport to transform lives. Today, she serves as the executive director for Sportswomen of Colorado, which again is an organization dedicated to celebrating and advancing women and girls in sport. She's joined by Rachel Sanford, who is the coach of the Evergreen High School lacrosse program and serves on the board for the Sportswomen of Colorado. Rachel's a leadership development expert, and she uses that expertise to lead career development workshops and has created leadership curriculum for both high school athletes and high school coaches. And we can't wait to dive into this conversation with them today. So, with that, I'm going to get right out of the way.
So I'm Jen Anderson-Ehrlich, and I am the executive director at Sportswomen of Colorado.
Cool. I'm Rachel Sanford. I'm the girls lacrosse coach at Evergreen High School in Colorado, and I'm also on the board for the Sportswomen of Colorado.
Nice. And we know that Hillary recently gave a speech. Were you the kickoff? Were
Yeah.
you the big deal?
Yeah, I got to be the keynote speaker at the Sportswomen of Colorado Awards Gala. It was amazing. Like so many legends in that room. So it was a big honor. And that's, of course, where I met Jen. And I didn't meet Rachel that night, but now virtually meeting her today.
I love that so much. Before we hit record, I think we need to let the audience in on a little hee hee ha ha. Hilly, you mentioned that, your talk maybe kicked off a little awkwardly and you pulled it back together. What exactly happened there?
Oh gosh. Okay, so it was the like they're doing the big introductions, and oh gosh, they showed this video to like introduce me and kind of like a big, Jen had done this great introduction, and yeah, just basically introducing me and my story, and I get a little like choked up sometimes and I watch this video, especially this one, and like I'm on stage and I'm like starting to cry, and I'm like,
Nice.
but in my head I'm like, pull it together, Hillary, like let's go. But it's like a very high pressure situation, sometimes when that happens, the tears just come. And so what I did is I like just was thinking, I was like, okay, what's gonna pull me out of this? And then I just like come up to the microphone and I just launch into this joke. It's a chemistry joke. And like no one's expecting this. You're like, what is she doing? And I launch into this joke. The punchline is great. And everyone like they laugh. I think maybe they laughed out politely, but there's definitely some people that got it. And then I launched into my speech. So it was perfect because it did the trick of stopping me from getting like more emotional, like brought it back down, took a deep breath, and then went into the whole thing.
I
So
love it.
I just have to tell you that 84-year-old Ray, who was at my table, he was my longtime Pilates client
Mhm.
prior to me taking this job. Although Ray didn't come to me for Pilates, I think he just came to like hang out and do, kind of have me razz him. It was really about the relationship. He's a geophysicist, so he loved your joke. And there's two things that Ray likes. He likes women and that are charming, and he likes science. So he was like, who is she? Where did you meet her? So, like, at least one person did not laugh Hillary out of politeness. They genuinely loved the joke.
Oh man, I need to meet this guy. He's gonna be my
Yeah.
Any
best friend.
Super fan.
anytime.
Be careful what you ask for, is all I'll say there. That's amazing. Well, we're really excited to talk to you both. We've been thinking a lot about coaching and mentoring young athletes and just the importance of that phase in the athletic journey. Um, and one that we hope is for many people lifelong, that you develop this lifelong love, yeah, there we go, of movement, of activity, of exercise. And so to kick things off, I'd actually love to hear from both of you about that experience for you, from that experience with sport, from youth to maybe how athletics still play a role in both of your lives. Rachel, why don't you kick us off there?
Sure. So, one of my first female coaches was my college lacrosse coach at Duke. And just seeing a female leader run a program, be such a big influence on my life, I felt like, wow, the youth of today need to have female coaches who they can look up to. I think generations before me didn't really have that luxury of being coached by women. And so that's always been kind of the back of my head. And I started coaching when I was playing in high school. I played at Duke. We had a really successful career there. And after college, I kind of took a little bit of a break from lacrosse, and then it pulled me back in. So I've coached a lot of different levels. I currently coach high school, and I coach a club team, and I've coached, we coach a rec youth kids. My 3-year-old is getting into lacrosse, and so it's fun to see the sport in a lot of different through a lot of different lenses, right? And so I think age can really influence that. And then I actually collaborated with a softball coach who's a friend from business school, and we've created products to help athletes stay playing longer. So, resources for athletes to take control of their mental game off the field so they show up better on the field. And then kind of coaches' journals and coaches' planners, because I think coaching is hard, it's rewarding, but it takes a lot of time and effort, and you don't always have kind of that guiding light on where you're going. And so products for coaches, especially at the rec or the high school level, this is one part of my person. And so it's not my full career. And so finding ways to help people like me do better when you're out there.
Nice. Jen, what about you? That
I was
journey.
like, that was like such a great answer. I was like, what was the question?
Yeah,
Um,
that youth
yeah.
to now journey.
Yeah, so I grew up in Iowa, and I didn't realize how fortunate I was to grow up in the middle of nowhere, on a farm in Iowa in a small town. I think our graduating class was like 45 people. We were kindergarten through 12th grade in one building. And I grew up having the opportunity to play anything and everything that was offered. Now, the catch there is that things like lacrosse and maybe soccer or gymnastics or swim team were maybe not offered, but your standard like volleyball, basketball, softball, and track were offered. And if you wanted to play, there was a spot for you. And I was so fortunate because former executive director of Sportswomen of Colorado, Linda Lappy, who's currently our board president, she played basketball at CU Boulder. She's one of my dear friends. We grew up together. And when Rachel talks about the female coaching aspect, her mom was my first coach. So she coached me in softball, she coached me in basketball. I mean, when I see her today, she's still coaching me on how to raise my daughters and my son. Like her mom's name is Jean, and she was the recipient of a college scholarship. She was one of those first women who benefited from Title IX and having, the opportunity to be a collegiate athlete. And she played basketball and she played softball in college, and she just was a champion for Linda and myself. But the awesome thing about Jean was like she led with fun. She led with hard work and she led with fun. And she realized that like for us to be into this, we had to have a buddy. We had to have a friend. So Linda was just this tremendous athlete. And I joke around that she pulled me along. Like I was like the dead weight that she pulled along because I was up for anything. And so Jean would be like, hey, do you want to come do this like swim competition? And I know that she was like, called Jenny. And like Linda's the one person in my life who calls me Jenny, which by the way, I now have a necklace that my kids found at the thrift store that says Jenny, and I'm bringing it back. But I know Linda's mom was like, just call Jenny, see if she'll go. And truly, like, even if I didn't want to go, the option was, do you want to like stay home and walk beans or potentially like feed milk replacer to baby pigs, like legit? Or do you want to go like play softball? And so Jean would drive me around, and then there were other girls that, hopped on board. And, there were like 4 or 5 of us that we did everything, played everything. And then as our skill levels progressed and got different. Like some of us took things more seriously. I ended up playing basketball and softball in college. Linda played basketball in college, but like that competitive nature, that competitive spirit, it's still there. Then I went down this path. I've had kind of an odd career path, but I was a teacher for 10 years. I have 3 kids that are 12 and 10 and 8 right now. And I spent 10 years teaching. I spent 10 years running my own personal training and like Pilates business. And then this opportunity opened up, and the timing was perfect because I was looking for a change to make more impact and have more availability around my kids and not being so tired that I couldn't go coach their teams. And I've coached different things off and on, trained people of all different levels from middle schoolers to Ray, he's 83, I think. He'll be mad that I said he was 84. But, what I enjoy is the relationships and the motivation, and it is all tied around sport and teaching. So, so I still coach. I have one more week of my YMCA basketball cruise to coach. I've got a co-ed team of 6 through 8-year-olds, and I've got a group of basically 12 and 13-year-old girls, 11 to 13-year-old, and then I coach my boys team, and they're between the ages of 10 and 12. And the boys are actually, believe it or not, like the best to coach right now because they're so coachable. And that will tie into what makes coaching girls challenging because I'm coaching middle school girls.
I don't know. I coached youth biathlon, which is skiing and shooting for a long time, and
Yeah.
the 9-year-old girls, hands down best shooters on the team. Like I don't know what it is about 9 and 10-year-old girls, but they are dialed in comparison to their older cohorts, and then things probably fall apart again. But
Having an 8-year-old daughter, like that makes sense.
you're
We
like
only
she's a
have
sniper.
Yeah, she scored her touchdown in the flag football city championships, and now they go to like the Super Bowl weekend, I guess, at All City Stadium at Denver South. And she's the youngest one on the team, and she's scored her first touchdown. And my husband is volunteer coaching that team. And then she was like, I want to score a touchdown every time. And he's like, that's not how football works. And she's like, but did you see my tuck and roll? Like I dove, like I got it done. Like she's dialed in. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. I want to build off that a little bit and this idea. We talk about whys as athletes a lot. Knowing that you both are working so closely with the Sportswomen of Colorado, the foundation, the organization, I'm curious from that angle, like your whys for doing that work, what excites you about it, what things you're hoping to get out of it, the direction that you want to take things. Jen, maybe taking that one first.
Yeah. So I'll backtrack just a bit to what kind of led me to my career change. So I loved training, and I loved, um, I would take an injured person, for example, that would get referred to me. I worked within the physical therapy realm, and I would get them on the Pilates reformer, and I would get them moving and feeling better. And then I would progress them to weight training and getting them back to doing things that they love. So I worked with, ultra runners, endurance athletes, and there was this mental component to it. There was this emotional and mental health, and then you could dive into like the chronic pain component, and I had a lot of training around that, and just the mind body connection. And I I would leave sometimes feeling like, gosh, like I have so much to say. I have so much more that I want to do. I want to reach more people. And last year was like very interesting as well, because I was like driving middle schoolers to Nebraska to go watch Caitlin Clark play basketball. Like I literally drove a car full of girls to Nebraska, stayed the night, watched the game, and drove back. And I'm like, these girls are so impressionable. And then speaking of accidents, my husband had this accident, and he's okay, thankfully. He cried at Hillary's speech and loved her joke at the banquet. But just that act of resilience and like that comeback story. And I stepped away from my training work kind of out of necessity, but with the mindset like I need to be doing something different. And I don't know what that is. And I think as athletes, we're so type A, and we can be so controlling, and we set a goal, and we plan it out, and we reach it, or we don't. And then we go through that process over and over again. And for the first time, probably ever, I had to sit back and say, I'm going to wait, and I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to trust that my skill set is going to emerge in a way that's going to feel perfect. And the minute I decided that, this job posting pops up for Sportswomen of Colorado. Like, I'm not joking, like within 5 days. And then, you can hit the imposter button where you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to do this. And my husband was like, you're insane. Like, you would be the perfect person for this. I don't know anyone who will talk more about girls sports and what it does for them and get on their soapbox and hands out, leadership awards and GOAT awards and hustle awards after YMCA basketball games, Jen, which is literally what I do. Like I always try to tie it into like, this is not hard. This is basketball. Life is hard. And so that really led me down this path. And while I do need to make a paycheck, I would do this job for free because I'm so passionate about what I feel girls need and what is missing, and just the lessons that it teaches you, whether it's an individual sport or a team sport. So, and Rachel, I think it's interesting because you coach the high school level, and then I have a daughter that's a middle schooler, and things that my daughter might be struggling with as a 12-year-old or her peer group, I thought for whatever reason, because I was such an advocate, it wouldn't apply to her. And suddenly I'm like, she's like crying, like, I want to go to a birthday party. And I'm like, no, you have a game, and I remember you talking about girls getting their driver's license, like something about that. And I'm like, we need female coaches who understand the dilemmas of this age group to keep them in the sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Rachel, building off that, like, what is that why for you, and how does that kind of tie it all together?
Yeah, sure. So, um, coaching high school sports in Colorado is very much like coaching rec, right? You're combining a wide variety of care and a wide variety of skill level, right? Some kids still pick up their lacrosse stick until tryouts tomorrow, right? We're showing up. And so the license thing is like, it's kind of evens the playing ground. Like any kid that turns whatever 15 and getting their permit, it's a big thing. And at first I'm like, do this on your own time. We've got practice 3 to 5. Like, get out of here. And now it's like, okay, great. You're not a big player on the field for us, but you're a big emotional leader. You're a big, great teammate. And that's the most important thing for your week. Like, I'm going to support that. How'd the test go? Did you get it? And so what's cool about being involved with Sportswomen of Colorado is I was introduced to the organization because one of my former players, Margot Miller, won the lacrosse award. And so I went to the banquet and I was like, wow, this room of this celebrating female athletes in a variety of sports. It's like a sellout crowd, and I've never heard of it. Like, what is this? And so, you kind of inquire, and then before you know it, they're like, oh, you've got bandwidth, you're on the board. This sounds great. And so, in joining the board, my lacrosse team this spring came down to Lasley Elementary School and ran a learn to play clinic for fourth and fifth graders. It was really special to see my high school athletes giving back, introducing the sport, showing passion. And that was just like one afternoon in April, right? And so there's so much that we do and we can do. And so Sportswomen kind of gives every, recognizable athlete a little bit of a place to be recognized. Uh, and so it's been a nice addition to my calendar and my you know livelihood.
I love it. I'm like, I wish I was in Colorado. It's okay. Seattle will have to do, but I think it's really cool to hear about how the organization is working. I kind of want to build into more and more about kind of this coaching and leading these young girls and women into these sports. When I think about coaching, it's really easy to think just like sports performance. But I think when you're coaching kids, I coached 9 to 13-year-olds for a long time. When you're coaching kids, it's so much more about developing life skills. And I know for me, I needed to teach by doing, I needed to teach by showing up. And so I'm wondering for each of you, what are you hoping that you instill in these athletes when it comes to having them on your high school team or having them on that YMCA rec team? Like, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, for me, I can like chunk it into groups, right? So like 6 through 8 year olds, they're co-ed. So instilling teamwork, instilling confidence, instilling taking a risk, instilling the opportunity to fail and learn from your mistake. And then also like pass the girls the ball, right? Like it's so easy for the boys to get the ball and think that that they don't need to pass to the girls. And then we do these wristbands. So it's like if you have a red wristband, you guard the other person with the red wristband. And so color recognition, maybe. I'm just kidding. But I think, a great example would be my daughter, who's the 8 year old, and she's pretty fearless out there. She plays great defense. And I will say, like, okay, I want you to guard that boy and I want you to not let him get the ball. And she takes it very seriously. And so then when there's like a break, that boy will try to trade his wristband so that she's not guarding him. And so, and you have these officials that are like maybe, 17-year-old kids that are trained and they're awesome. They do a great job. They don't have the confidence to break that up. So then I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Like she's guarding you. And then, and it's in a gymnasium where all these parents can hear. And I'm like, I have ice cream on the line. Like I promised her ice cream if she would guard you. And so you like make a joke about it, but it's more than just like learning the skill. Obviously you want to teach them the sport, but you're right. It's so much more about life skills and just taking risks. And I have some kids that are so nervous that they don't want to play. And like, you're not going to get over your nerves by not playing. You like have to go out there repeatedly. And I always try to frame it that like if you're nervous, you care. Like I think we have this view or this lens that anxiety is bad. Like no, anxiety shows you care. So that's a big conversation topic then with my middle school girls. Like Rachel, I'm sure you're instilling some of this stuff even with your high school kids. I can let you chime in. I don't want to talk about, I can go on to my next levels too, I guess, but I don't want to talk too much.
I think go on to your next levels. That was great.
Okay. So for my boys, I would say that's more about like self-control. They're very impulsive. They get really emotional. Um, I would argue girls are the same about different topics, but the boys, like if it's not a tightly officiated game, they could like throw down. And so making sure that they're honed in. And then I actually run my practices with the fourth and fifth grade boys, and this like it's fifth and I guess 10 to 12 year olds. I run my practice with 10 to 12 year old boys, and then I run my girls practice with the middle school girls, and they practice together and against each other. And so there's like a mutual respect for them. And I've done that for 3 years now. And it's been really awesome because the boys will actually come an hour early to cheer the girls on if they can, or vice versa. And they play together. It's really beautiful. My middle school girls, though, oh boy, it is everything from bras, sports bras. Do I have the right sports bra? I don't like the sports bra. These pads come out of the sports bra. Why do we have these pads in this sports bra?
Great
To
question. $1 million
seriously,
question.
why do we have them really? Like,
No one knows.
and no one knows.
I have
And
no
I'm
idea.
like, my 12-year-old, I just like wash them and dry them and I like throw them in her clothes basket. And she's like, why didn't you put these in there? And I'm like, there's one thing you need to learn right now. If you want these pads, you're going to learn how to put them in your sports bras because I'm not doing it for you. Which, by the way, she doesn't even need a bra, but that's another topic. So, and then you have girls that have their periods and menstrual cycles. And do they want to play? Do they want to go to their swim team meet? Maybe they're going to skip. And that stuff like bled over to when, like figuratively, when I was a college athlete and we had pool workouts on a Wednesday with a male coach. I was the team captain and my coach was like, why does so and so have their period every single Wednesday? And I'm like, they don't. She can't swim. Like she can't swim. And then also like she's never used menstrual products to support swimming. So there's like a broad range at middle school where at least the conversation is being normalized, but they're so insecure. I look at my 8-year-old and she might be a little nervous, but she will go out. She's a sharpshooter, right? She's a sniper. She'll do whatever I ask her to do. She's not self-conscious about it. And all of a sudden they turn 11, 12. They start to get, boobs, or they start to go through puberty, or maybe they're not and they're self-conscious about that. And suddenly they're lighting up and their arms are crossed. They're kind of slumped down. So I'm like, hands on your hips, put your hands on your hips, uncross your elbows, put your hands on your hips, because then you at least appear confident. They are self-conscious. They're worried about making mistakes. They're worried about failure. They're worried about being too much. Suddenly my 12-year-old's like, you're so intense. I'm like, I've always been intense. Like, I don't know how to be any different. And then I talk to my other friends that are coaching and they're like, these kids, like, we can't, like, when I used to be hard on them, like now my soft days are considered hard. And so I'm trying to bring the hard back because it's not mean. It means that you care. And later on in life, like, you better not be defensive if somebody's showing up and trying to help you. You better learn that that's like personal growth and accountability. So the more I can try to instill that into my middle schoolers, like I feel like I will be doing my job. I don't care if we win. I don't care if we lose. Am I teaching them that something is hard and they can do it if they believe in themselves? And if they mess up, I'm going to be held accountable and I'm going to like work ethic and ask for help. That's a lot. Sorry.
No, it's good. Rachel, how does that change with the high school girls that you
Yeah,
work with as far as like trying to instill lessons outside of performance?
totally. Communication is one of those most important life lessons. My team needs to be able to call me, text me, talk to me, right? And you kind of see over the span of somebody's high school career, like how kind of meek they tend to be as a communicator, as a freshman. And then as a senior, you're like, okay, I'm still your coach. Like, hold back a little. Like, we don't need to go there, but kind of speaks to building relationships. And, to me, one of the biggest marks of success is when a former player comes by and stops by the restaurant or sends me a text. It's like, hey, coach, I'm in town. I'd love to see you. And it's like, that is hands down the biggest. Like, I've won a couple state championships. Those are great. But kind of the knowing that you've made an impact enough on somebody's life that they're going to reach out is really, truly amazing. And so with communication, sometimes I say, like, I'm really direct. I'm from Connecticut. This is what you want to hear. You just get teaching your players how to be coached by you, right? What do I care about? Making sure those expectations are really clear. So we're not getting frustrated over silly stuff. And I think have the hard conversations because at the end of the day, it's lacrosse, right? And so if you can have a hard conversation about playing time or your role, it's going to serve you much like serve you your entire life, right? In college and in jobs with relationships in general.
Yeah, I was a frustration crier, and my high school ski coach would tell me, and it became shorthand eventually, but he'd be like, "You can't cry when your skis face the wrong direction. You can cry when your dog dies." And that like the
Oh,
shorthand would be whenever I get frustrated, because it'd be like basically it's like it's just skiing. Like you got like I know you're frustrated, but it's just skiing. Like you got to chill. Like you're crying about this, and it's not. I want you to cry when something big happens. When your dog passes away, let's cry. But like
yeah.
you're fine. Like the workout's just not going how you want it to go. But it became shorthand when he could tell I was getting frustrated. He'd just be like, "Malcolm, your dog die?" And I'd be like, "No, no, she did not." And I would like it would like break me out of that like frustration feeling, which is like maybe a little like dark, but it worked.
Yeah.
It clicked. Hillary, did you have something that you wanted to add on there?
Well, no, it was just kind of in that transition. I think like with from Jen coaching middle school girls to Rachel, I think that like there can be a lot of when women are and girls are going through these changes, like how do you keep them into sport going into high school, right? I think we can talk about it like because there's a lot of differences there. Like there's a lot of discouraging things that can happen. So how as coaches do you mentor somewhere where it's not frustrating?
Yeah, and can I add on to that actually, just
Yeah.
because I think this ties into a question about puberty in general and like a lot of changes happening. Friend groups are changing, their bodies are changing. And I read an article recently and they set it up really beautifully with this idea of like just wait until she grows. And
Mhm.
that for girls is said with trepidation, with fear, like, oh, just wait until she grows, like she's not gonna run that fast anymore or whatever. But when you say that about boys, oh, just wait until he grows. That's like excitement, unfilled potential, untapped potential. Like it's very different when you say that same phrase about, 11 to 14-year-old girls than when you say it about 11 to 14-year-old boys. And that I think like really sums up that like crazy puberty journey that you both witness in your
Mhm.
Yeah.
coaching practices. So yeah, just we would love to hear you talk about like working through that transition with these
Yeah.
athletes.
Well, I'm just like sitting here shaking my head because the other day I was like playing pickup basketball and I was like, oh my God, I am so much stronger at 45 than what I was as a 20-year-old playing college basketball. Like, if I was this strong when I was 20, like, what could I have done? And I'm like brittle now, right? So like you're you're so spot on about like, just and I'm thinking specifically of my son who's 10 and he is like a string bean. And we're
Hmm.
always like, just wait until he grows, just wait till he fills in. And I am saying that actually, I am saying that about my 12-year-old though, because she is a late bloomer. So she's like a pipsqueak, tiny, skinny, and you don't know me, Corinne, but I'm 6 feet tall. And so she's built like how I was. And I was not, I was 5'7" the beginning of my freshman year of high school with like size 11 feet. And so everyone's like, looking at her like, oh, she's so tall. And I'm like, she's not, because on the basketball court right now, like at her club team, some of the girls are my size. And like a year is a massive amount of growth. So she gets frustrated because she's tiny compared to like some of those girls that have already hit their growth spurts. So I do keep saying to her, just wait until you grow. But
But with that
you know,
same tact of how it's expressed to the boys, like, hey, like
yeah,
you're gonna be taller and stronger. And that I think is also the difference between like these team sport mentalities where like that is such a thing, like, oh my goodness, like you are stronger now, which is like not the lens that is taken into like high school and middle school running, for example, right? Where it's like it's easier to quote unquote stay smaller. Uh,
running, gymnastics,
yeah,
diving, any of those. And I mean, Hillary, even last week, what did I say to you? I was like, do people eat? Do track athletes eat? Like
they
you see
should,
some
they
of
need
them and
to.
I'm like,
Me
do
too.
they fuel?
Yeah.
Because you look at them and I'm like, how are you running and you clearly don't eat? Like, and I'm not trying to be mean about it.
I mean, and that's like a huge, we're really passionate about that here too, because it's like it's on this podcast, we talk about this a lot. It's like how much stronger you actually can be and how much better you can train if you fuel your body. And I think that mentality, it's like that whole thing, like wait until she grows, it can be misconstrued, I think, for like, with girls in puberty, but actually teaching them that it can be a positive thing, right? And how to fuel themselves into like the right sport and for the right reasons. And then, having mentors who can guide them in that direction. Yeah.
Rachel, do you deal with a lot of, I'm just curious, like with your high school girls, and I met them at the Lasley Clinic. They were like, they were awesome role models. But Do you deal with girls with like being very super self-conscious on your team about their bodies? Because I actually do witness that a fair amount with my 12-year-olds on the basketball team. And it's fascinating to me because I remember feeling those feelings or hearing that or seeing that when I was in high school, but definitely not when I was in middle school. And I'm seeing it, witnessing, hearing it in middle school. Although there's always a girl now that's like, I'm proud. I'm a big back. Like I'm strong. Like I've got a big butt and it's muscular, which I would have never thought that, right? When I was 12, but or 14 or 16. Like that wasn't in. And at least there is that side of the pendulum that like strong is in
Yeah.
right now. Like it's a good thing.
I think what I see firsthand is when girls mature, they tend to outgrow some clothes, some of those shorts, and then they wear those shorts longer than maybe they should. And so as a high school coach, I hate when somebody's like you're seeing their sports bra, like if they're wearing a regular bra with like a racer back top. So you're like, I don't want to see your clothes. I don't want to see your butt cheeks, right?
Your
So
butt cheeks.
wear bigger shorts. That feels a little uncomfortable as like a high school coach to address that. But I have, right? And so I think by the time high school comes, they tend to be a little bit more comfortable in their bodies, but they need the confidence building. They need the more like, uh, what's in it for me, right? Like, why am I here? Why is my role different than the starter? And it's still important. But I think by the time they're graduating, they've kind of come back into their own. They are confident. This is what the future holds, and they can kind of articulate it. But when they start to when they finish, they definitely are wavering in terms of who they are and how they can kind of talk about themselves and stand up in front of a room and say who they are. But you see by the time they graduate, you tend to see that like, they've really matured.
Yeah, I think that speaks to team culture, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to backtrack before we spring ahead. And it's specifically this idea of being coachable and coachability. And it's great. It's really nice when you can communicate with an athlete and they understand what you're saying and they take it in and they apply it. But on the other hand, we're also trying to teach these athletes to listen to their bodies and to be strong self-advocates, which in some way feels like it's like could be in direct like opposition to quote unquote coachability. And I'm wondering how you both think of that when it comes to working with a very wide age range of like responsibility, coachability, but also like we need you to tell us that something's wrong. We need you to tell us that, you're injured or you've got this thing going on or come to us with these concerns. Like that, I feel like is a very interesting. As adults, it feels like, oh yeah, we can do both these things at the same time, but it feels like for a 13-year-old, doing both those things is like a very fine line.
I'm like, can we, Hillary? Like, I feel like we've talked about this. Can we do that? No. Um, I think,
We try, we try.
we try, right? I think in my own journey of like an athlete and continuing to push through and train hard well into my 40s, like I completely blew up my nervous system. And I will never forget Pete Emerson. He's my physical therapist, just an awesome guy. He's probably the only person that I'm scared of besides my dad. And he told me, he was like, you have to lay off, like, you have to stop training so hard. And I'm like, I'm not training that hard. And by the way, I don't race. It's just like my personal goals, right? It's just me setting a goal that I want to be able to do something. And he's like, you got to back off. Like, you're not racing and your nervous system is totally blown up. And I got an Aura ring. And for those of us that have an Aura ring, no, we're not endorsed here as we all put up our fingers. My HRV was like in the teens for like months, no matter what I did. And it was like a biometric tracker. It led for me like having a girl that I worked with who was a diver, and she ended up being honored by Sportswomen of Colorado, Morgan Manley, to get an Aura ring because I saw things that were happening within her nervous system and her body and her back pain. And just pushing beyond what she needed to do and learning how to listen. So for me, a biometric indicator that like was science based was a huge thing because it showed me like on my phone in a graph, like today is not the best day to push. Today is a day where you have an elevated heart rate and your HRV is in the teens and you slept like crap and you're fighting a cold, like don't go try to backcountry split board a mountain today. Like today is not the day. But circling back to when they're 13, it is a fine line, or 12, right? So um, when are you hurt versus injured? Those are questions that I ask, for example, my daughter. Are you injured or do you hurt? Because there's a difference, right? Another conversation that we have a lot is you're just going to do your best today. You're going to show up because consistency is what builds. So your practice might be 70% of what you would normally be able to give, but that's where you're at today because maybe you stayed up late finishing homework, or you're not feeling the best. And then there's also those days where I can look at her and I'm like, you need a break. And it's tricky. And I think I have to fall a lot on just trusting my mom gut. But I see kids that play 5 games in a day in the club scene, and I'm like, what are we doing? So I think there's systems that are challenging. And Rachel, you're a club coach, you're a rec coach. Like I can remember, playing 4 softball games on a Saturday and remembering being like, why can't I just play 2? Right? Like I'm there to be with my friends. I want to hang out. I don't want to play 4 games. And I do think like sometimes we're setting kids up to be injured. There's over specialization. They're feeling pressured to play 5 games in a day if they need to with no subs. Like that's not good either. But that's the system that we're bucking up against. And I mean, you're an ultra runner, Hillary, so you have to like really learn how to monitor that yourself, Rachel. And then you're in the club scene with lacrosse, and like I don't know how many games you play a day in lacrosse for club, but sometimes it's crazy the stress that they are putting themselves under.
Right. I mean, this is a follow-up question too to that point, Jen, is that and I've read some different articles and research articles on this. At what point is it necessary to like specialize into sport, right? And transition from it to being playing to competition. And I think that's also maybe like, you said you want to go there and just play with your friends. You don't necessarily want to like play to win or be super competitive. I think maybe some girls have um that mentality compared to boys. Like boys may be more competitive earlier on, but like how do you navigate that? Because I think there is a point where, yeah, in high school maybe you start to specializing and thinking about college and scholarships and maybe where the sport can take you, but there seems to be an importance to like focus on the play aspect of it and what it can teach you about life in general rather than just like you said, the system that you're kind of that sport is funneled people into. How do you push back against that?
It's so hard. How many sports did each of you play? I'm just curious. I know you played tennis, Hillary.
Oh, well, I didn't specialize until high school. I played flag football, I played basketball, I played soccer, I played tennis, I tried to do cross country. It wasn't until high school that I actually decided to play 2 sports, and that
I
was
was gonna
running and
say,
tennis.
yeah, I played everything but volleyball.
I
And
played
then
volleyball too.
and then when I got to high school, I was a 3 sport athlete, like every season. And
Mhm.
then by the time my senior year rolled around, skiing was my primary sport, and track and field and cross country were supplements to that, i.e., that meant that I added on to cross country practice because we'd go from too many hours in the summer of training. If we like just scaled back to just cross country training, we'd all peak in like September. And so we'd like have to add on a little bit in order to like meet those kind of training demands. But yeah, still played 3 sports all the way through high school. But they all, I
Yeah, me
guess,
too.
those sports like gave to each other. They're all endurance sports effectively.
Yeah, I played
Rach.
soccer, ice hockey, lacrosse. I swam and played water polo kind of in the summer season. But yeah, I think recruiting in that journey makes a lot of kids specialize or think they need to specialize sooner. In lacrosse, girls that are playing in college, they tend to commit to those colleges in the fall of their junior year.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not playing club, by high school, you're probably late a little bit, just kind of the way the game has grown. Even though most coaches say like they want multi-sport athletes, they also really want lacrosse players too. So it's like little bit of both?
Yeah, I think that's a challenge. Like my 12-year-old was on a club soccer team in the fall and she plays on a club basketball team. And both of them, by the way, are super affordable. Ha. Meaning that it's not like it's a privilege to be able to pay for them to be on two club sports. And we cleared it with both coaches of both clubs to say, like, hey, she doesn't want to choose yet. She's in sixth grade. And they were like, great, we love multi-sport athletes. And this is what the schedule will look like. And then the actual schedule comes out, and we're like, this is not what we signed up for. And, she went to a soccer tournament in Utah. She's the only kid on our team that doesn't have a cell phone because I won't give her a cell phone. I don't believe that it's necessary to play another Colorado team. And she was miserable. And it took all of the love out of the sport for her, actually. And this is not a dig on the club because it's like this. You could jump to another club or, club shop around. And at some point, they're all like this. And so we said, you can quit. And she was bawling. And she was like, I don't want to be a quitter. You told me that I could never quit. And I was like, my husband and I had this deep conversation around what are we teaching her to stay in a bad work environment or an abusive relationship with a partner later on in life. We're not teaching her to walk away from something otherwise. Like we have to trust and believe in her that she really knows what she wants. So our agreement was that she had to tell her coach herself that she was going to quit. And I dropped her off and I went for a run and she was going to tell the coach after practice. I'm about a mile and a half into my run and my phone rings and it was the coach. She couldn't wait to tell her. She got there and she burst. She was like, I'm quitting. I don't want to do this. It's not any fun. And the coach was really upset, but she was penalized essentially for playing basketball. She was also playing on her middle school volleyball team, which I would argue was so much fun for her. And she was a new girl at her new middle school. And it was with seventh and eighth graders. So it formed connections and bridges to the upperclassmen in her middle school. And some of the girls in her sixth grade class that have had kind of a harder time adjusting, I didn't see my kiddo having a harder time adjusting because she had practices for the full sixth grade year with those upperclassmen because she played volleyball, she played basketball, and then she went back and played soccer and she had the best time this spring. She loved soccer again. And I'm watching her kick a soccer ball around outside this morning with a neighbor boy. So I think, you're fighting this system that is not set up. You're right, Rachel. Like we all want them to play multiple sports, but really we want lacrosse players or really we want soccer players. So it's constantly, you're bucking a system that isn't truly set up for that, especially in the city. So when I go back to Iowa and it's a smaller town, or Terry Ward, who's with USA Basketball, and she's from Niwot, which by the way, Niwot track and field, like Coach Mo Henricks, they just won the state championship for this sixth year in a row, I want to say. I mean, they're doing
All the
incredible
pros
things.
train at that track,
Yep,
literally.
exactly.
Like it's like the public pro track.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to go see some Olympians? Go to Niwot, right? It's
Yeah.
like you got Gatorade Player of the Year. You've got all these incredible athletes. Like Terry Ward, who's on our board, she was like, if you're at a smaller school, you can play multiple sports in Colorado. Otherwise, like you're lucky if you're getting two.
Well, it's the club. It's like the club program system. I was thinking to myself, I
Yep.
grew up in a tiny town in northwestern Wisconsin. Like we did not have club sports. We had school sports. Like
Right.
that was our sporting
Right.
system. And so it was like that. And there was a lot of like, I mean, there's nothing to do in this town, so you should play three sports, like one for each season, because like what else are you gonna do?
It's exactly how it was for us.
But it's
Exactly.
so different growing up in like more urban, and even like I coached in Bozeman, Montana, which is like not, it's grown a lot in the last like 5 to 7 years, but it's like not a crazy big town. But they have that there now too, where they really need to be cognizant of like these club programs that are year round and what that actually means for the school system. Like it's very chaotic. And I think that I don't know what that noise is. Oh, it's my neighbor doing something crazy. That's fun. Um, I think building off of that though, like how in these programs can you utilize team culture so that your daughter doesn't experience that thing, doesn't experience, you know, feeling like she hates the sport due to the way the team is structured.
Yeah, I have
Well,
a
I
good one
think,
for that too.
Rachel, go ahead. I was just going to say, you do a really good job of this.
Um, I think you really need to recognize every athlete for what they bring to the team, right? And so there's kids that are going to have starring roles on the field and kids that aren't. And so how do you make the kids that aren't want to be there? And so we try to do some stuff um, at practice where, you know, everybody can get a shining role, like stuff with reaction time, right? Like you hope this your best kids have the best reaction time. Maybe not, right? Maybe yes. And so it's a way for other kids to get a little bit of stardom. We did a by class jump rope competition this year. It was probably like one of like an indoor practice, and my kids were so competitive with each other, trying to win for their like kudos, and you're like, these moves are not that great, but I'm glad you're having fun. And so finding ways, like we talked about at the beginning, just like sports should be fun, right? And everybody should have a place. And so making sure it's inclusive to different ability levels, and they have to buy into like what we're doing, right? At the end of the day, just like the team comes first, and that tends to to win out, when the teams that don't put themselves first.
Rachel, you guys did that crazy April Fool's Day. Didn't you dress up for eight? Was it April Fool's where everybody dressed up too?
No, is that me?
I okay. Maybe that wasn't you.
I don't think so.
Someone
But I'm
dressed
like
up and it was great.
Yeah, somebody did. Well, and I'm thinking of Charlotte Morton, who is a lacrosse player. She just finished her freshman year at USC. And that girl, like I worked with her when she was in high school. That girl loves to dress up. And I remember seeing on Instagram though for Halloween, like the USC lacrosse players all dressed up for their weight training workout. And like seeing that was awesome. And it's something that I did last weekend with Memorial Day is I held my practices outside at Roseman Park, and I brought water guns for all the parents. And I said every time a kid misses a layup, they got to spray their kids. And so it ended up with a water fight, and like everybody got pelted by the parents. Everybody had fun, and then I had the whole team over to our house for like a backyard barbecue. And it's like that camaraderie component is super important.
Yeah, I guess maybe some of our final questions before we wrap up. And I did discover it's my neighbors trying to like power wash their car in our shared driveway, which is like really excellent timing. But speaking specifically about the like parents and having parents involved, what are things that you wish parents knew? If you could give them like, I wish parents just knew this thing. And then do you have favorite resources for parents or for other coaches?
This is a good one.
Oh, this is a really good
I
one.
think if for parents, if your kid is unwilling to talk to me about this, they don't care, right? So if they're not willing to talk about playing time or practice or something, they don't care as much as the parent does.
Rachel, that's so fascinating to me because in the beginning, when you talked about communication and your parents being able to talk to you, I was sitting here thinking like, wow, what would it have been like to have a coach like that? Because
Yeah.
I like outside of Gene Lappy, my little youth coach, I mean, high school coaches, college coaches, like you did not, and they were males, most of them. I had a volleyball coach, and now that I think about it, for my senior year, I was really tight with her, and she was a female, and I
Yeah.
would go over to her house and talk to her.
Yeah.
And the rest of my coaches, like, I never had that ever. So for you to say that, that is like fascinating because I would have never been able to talk to my male college coach, for example, and I cared
Yeah.
deeply.
Yeah, I think it's
So
like you got to be human, right? Like, and I think I used to bring my dog to practice, and if I brought my dog, it was going to be like a fun, light practice. And everybody's like, "Oh, George is here. This is going to be great." And then they're like, "You can't bring your dog to practice anymore because they got a new turf field." And then
yeah,
I was like, "Okay, I'm bringing my kids, but I'm
bringing
bringing
your
my kids
kids.
to practice because of a logistics thing. It doesn't really end up the same way." But I think just talking about the kids or talking about life or like finding ways to connect with the high school athletes like makes such a difference.
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot to like that mutual respect too, where it's like they respect and trust you, and you show them that you like also like respect and trust them to like have this conversation, which is a huge deal. Jen, what about for you? What if, this could be for the 8-year-olds or for the 13-year-olds? What is something you wish the parents knew?
Yeah, I think I wish parents would know that any volunteer coach, well, maybe not any, but for me, I care deeply about their kids. Like I care deeply, and I don't care about them in regard to sport. I care about how they're doing mentally, emotionally. I care about how they're showing up. Are they showing up and working hard? Are they putting their best foot forward? Are they being respectful? I will say like disrespect is a major trigger for me. Um, and and I see that and I wish I lost my best friend and former teammate to cancer in January, and she was a middle school coach and she was a college coach. She's a mom of three. And she, before she died, she and I had this big conversation about time and place. I think I said it earlier. She said after COVID, kids didn't realize what time and place meant. There's a time to act away and a place to act away. And as a coach, I wish parents understood that it's our job to teach them the appropriate time and place and that we care deeply. So if I'm getting on your kid, it's because I care.
Yeah, I think I got like chills just thinking about that a little bit with the time and place thing in particular. The question that we kind of end things with for everyone is this idea of like, what advice would you give your younger self? Like the things you know now, and that could be younger you as a coach, that could be younger you as an athlete. Um, just thinking about like you both have a lot of experience in all those fields. So just like thinking of that, like, yeah, what do I wish I could tell that other version of me?
I would have I would tell myself that I needed to be intentional, far more intentional around the way that I was spending my time training. I would have been more intentional in regards to being a student of the game. I remember sitting and watching game film, and I'm ADHD, and I would be really tired, and I would be in a locker room, and we would have gone through like a 3 hour practice, and I would literally be falling asleep because it was just like it didn't carry any meaning to me. And this ties into Rachel's communication. Had I gone to my coach and said, "Hey, I really want to cover what you're going over, and it's really hard for me," and been intentional around the way that I was acquiring that information, I think it would have really improved my game. I think I did a lot of things because I thought I was supposed to and probably overtrained and overdid some things. And I just wasn't as intentional around what I was doing, including the mental aspect of it.
Yeah, I like that. I'd say like keep trying new things, right? I think the more as you get older, it's easy to just do the things you like. So it's like I got into cold plunging this winter. It's something I never would have done, and I'm obsessed with it. And so a couple of years ago, we tried rock climbing, and it's like not for me, but I tried it, right? I saw this thing, and I was like, I want to climb that. And so not kind of giving up and just sticking on what you've been doing. Keep trying some new and fun.
Okay, Jen and Rachel got me fired up about the work that they're doing, but also just like the excitement for the future of high school and collegiate women's sports. And I just want to thank them so much for joining us for that conversation because they are truly phenomenal people and I enjoy the work that they're doing. I lost Hillary. She's frozen.
Okay, now is it better?
Yeah, you're better now.
Okay. Sorry, I had to come inside because it was gonna um but you were doing so good. It was gonna die. So now I'm ready.
Okay, I guess. Keely, you're gonna have to edit this again.
Sorry.
Sorry. I'll take it from the top. We're recutting. We're recutting right here to reintroduce the thing that we just outroed. Okay, so I really enjoyed that conversation with Jen and Rachel. They are phenomenal in what they do. I love to hear more about the Sportswomen of Colorado and the organization, but also got me fired up about like high school and collegiate women's sports and how important they are and how grounding they can be and how important those roles for parents are in their children's lives, but also how important those high school leaders are when it comes to creating a pipeline for women and girls to be engaged in athletics hopefully for a lifetime. So just I big thank you for to both Jen and Rachel for joining us today. I really enjoyed it.
I know you hang out like 10 seconds in a room with Jen and you're just like fired up to do anything.
Yeah, Hillary's like, I'm on the board. Yeah, they are incredibly inspirational and they get me fired up to do more than we're already cramming into our days. Yeah, want it just big thanks. Before we do Society Slam, as we always do, we got to give one more plug and one more shout out to the people over at Rabbit. I want to say gals, but there are some guys that make it happen over there too. Again, launch date for our new collaboration with them. We're so excited for it. We hope that you go check it out right now over at runningrabbit.com. And again, through the entire month, you can use States 10, STATES 10 to get 10% off any order over there. Go check out our collab today, Society Slam. Hilly, why don't you take that very first one on the list?
Oh, those reading through these society slams, these two of these made me just laugh out loud. And this one was, so how do we do bathroom breaks? How do bathroom breaks work during these things? YOLO it in the woods?
Yeah, YOLO it in the
Yeah,
woods. I mean, it depends a little bit, right? It's easier in
it's
some
true.
races or runs than others with outhouses and porta potties and whatnot. Um, but yeah, it is kind of a YOLO situation. For hygiene reasons, it's probably worth having a little bathroom kit in your vest if you're out for a long run or race that includes maybe toilet paper and hand sani. You pack
Mhm.
like you want to dig a cat hole to bury any number twos out there is ideal as well. Be a nature
Yeah.
steward. Get off the trail. Bury those number twos. I feel like pee is kind of a free for all, to be completely
Yeah,
honest. And it's like pee at your own risk. Watch out for poison oak. Wave and say hi if anyone sees you.
I love that. Oh yeah, that's all good.
I've been caught out peeing along this gravel bike path we have in Issaquah called the Preston Issaquah Trail. And I thought I was in the clear because you can see a long ways in both directions. And I had stopped to go pee. And this guy on a bike just like rode by while I was mid squat. And I just like had to smile and wave. And he waved back. So, it's one of those things. It's a lot easier for guys to do the business in the
Yeah.
woods than it is for women runners. But yeah, it's like watch out for poison oak, anything bitey or stabby,
Hmm.
and yeah, bury your number twos for sure.
I mean, hopefully for like really, really long races, you take care of those number twos before you leave the house.
Hmm.
But you
Doesn't
never
always
know.
work that way. Doesn't
Yeah.
always work that way. Races in the desert, like Black Canyon, a lot harder to
Oh
do any
yeah.
of that privately than, a Western states, for example, where
Hmm.
trees abound. And again, utilizing those bathroom opportunities at aid stations where porta potties and outhouses are more often available. So,
Hmm.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen, particularly in long races. The likelihood of going to the bathroom is pretty high. So, I will
Yeah.
also say that like chafing can happen from either of those situations, and so we
Hmm.
wanna make sure too that you're just like being hygienic because that will you'll be thankful in the long run that you did so in a way that eliminates chafe ideally.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to say the second one that made
I
you
was gonna
laugh?
say the second one. So, okay, this is also a question I had. Literally, Corinne, how do you manage to talk for so long and be so, I'm adding this part, and be so knowledgeable about everything? It's impressive.
Yeah, well, I don't think that I'm neurospicy by any means. I do think that this would be like my special interest. I can't remember the periodic table or sometimes things that I'm like supposed to do for work, but I am
Mm.
really good at remembering kind of asinine conversations or um, race results or, the play-by-play from a race that happened in 2021. And so I think it's just my natural habitat. And I think I said on the last episode that one of our really dear friends who met me when I was a high schooler when she was a post-collegiate athlete, she remembers coming home from that interaction with me and just being like, wow, Corinne's really good at talking. So I think I'm still that way. I've
Oh,
fine-tuned it to my niche interest.
I think you are, and that's said with like love and endearment.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
so good. You did so good. The
join
the Western states would not be the same without that.
Yeah, join me in like 350 odd days for round six, where we talk for another 20 hours. So,
Let's
yeah,
do
I have a ton of
it.
fun. Western States has my heart and soul, and working with Dylan and the entire Mountain Outpost team and Billy Yang and all of our camera and drone operators, our field correspondents, it's an absolute dream come true. So if you missed out any of the Western States coverage, it will all live on YouTube, and I hope that you join us next year, either in person or via the internet, to experience a little bit of that Western States wonder and joy. Um, we had a fun shout out that said San Francisco has its first sports bar dedicated to women's sports called Ricky's Bar. Heck yeah. I also heard from several people that people were having watch parties for Western states at their local women's sports bar.
Heck
They were
yeah.
gonna do golden hour there, and they were all gonna wear their Here for the Women's Race shirts at golden hour watching it.
So
So
cool.
I
Love
want
that.
more of those for 2026. So you have
Hmm.
a watch party idea, you hit us up. We'll make it happen. Um, Final Society Slam for today. And if you've made it this far, we're allowed to like kind of talk shit a little bit. So it says, "Hi, I was listening to the Boulder Boys podcast today, and they were struggling to name historical female trail runners for the new Trail Running Hall of Fame. Most of the people they named were still competing, and I personally struggled to name anyone other than Ann Trayson. I would love to learn about more women in trail running history, maybe a podcast idea, but would also love to hear any resources to learn more. Great,
Amazing.
great question. To be fair, the Boulder Boys can't name like current female runners half the time. Actually, Drew Holman's pretty good at it. Seth Ruling, that is not his skill set, never has been. Love Seth, but he is particularly bad at naming anyone, male or female racer, that is not his immediate friend group. So I appreciate whenever Seth tries really hard. Um, but yeah, this is a really cool topic of conversation. I got to see
Mhm.
Nikki Kimball at Western States, one of the many OGs. We were talking before this, there's Megan Hicks, Megan Canfield,
Mm. Oh
Amy
yeah.
Sproston, Darcy Piku, like the list goes on. Mo, Shannon, Bjorg, all these women that were involved early at Western States.
Right.
There are a lot of
The person who got me into running, JD Day.
yeah. There's a lot of historical figures, and there's historical figures regionally within the US as well
Mm.
as, globally too.
Right. Yeah.
And so like I think Frosty was named into the Hall of Fame, and I was like, man,
Mhm.
Frosty, you're not that like that
No, she's
old.
not that old.
Like I
Yeah.
remember
I would
racing
have
PKs
competed
with her.
against her.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, we got to work back a little bit in the history
Yeah.
here. So I do know that Shannon Wells just put out a book called Buckle Fever, which I think kind of like looks at early Western states. John Trent's The First Sunrise, I think was really nice. I do think Doug Mayer's book about
Yeah.
UTMB provides some of that background context and history too.
We
Um,
didn't even talk about Chrissy Mole.
oh
Like
my
she,
goodness, she's like
like
my home girl. She's like
I
just up
know,
the road
right?
from me, and she's been, in it early too, in it early at UTMB. Um, was the youngest Grand Slam, I think,
Hmm.
female ever. I think at like 27.
Yeah.
Like she was an early
Yeah,
ultra
she was
runner.
because she's not very old even right now, but like yeah, and then even like I mean we're even yeah, I can't
We're
yeah,
missing
then
people. And Ellie
her
Greenwood,
impact on the
right?
sport. Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't consider Ellie Greenwood old either, but like
No, or even Rory
icon
Boggio, you know what I mean? Like, but all
iconic.
these women, yeah. I'm thinking about like iconic, like when I'm thinking about history of women's trail running, it's like what women have done to like raise the bar, right? And over time, not just like be the firsts of these things, but like what have they been doing to raise the bar of what's possible?
Yeah, Andrea Hauser, like the list.
Hmm.
We could dive into the European side, but yeah, there's
I
there's
know
a rich
there's a
there's
lot there.
there's a rich history in ultra running within the women's side of the sport as well, and it's not well highlighted. There's a film coming out around Western states that I think does kind of touch back on some of that history too, about like kind of the advancement of the women's side of the sport, and with interviews from some of those women who were early had early relationships with Western states in particular. So
Mhm.
that'll give you a snapshot when that comes out as well. But yeah, I think some of these books like The Second Sunrise by John Trent and Doug Mayer's UTMB book, I think are both really good from like the two of the biggest 100-mile races perspective, with some of the characters that have been involved there for a very long time. So,
Mhm.
but maybe honestly, it sounds like we need to get Nikki Kimball on the podcast.
That would be awesome.
I think we might be able to make this happen.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you slide into our DMs if you have any specific interview requests, particularly from that group of athletes that we mentioned or other athletes that we are missing in that short, very short conversation. We'd love to
Mhm.
hear from you on that because we do think that those stories haven't been told well. But there are glimmers of it out there, and there are books and pieces that I do think really highlight those important kind of early characters in our sport. And I guess if you're this deep into the podcast, because you're deep now, we're talking 90 minutes deep, you need to eat a snack. You need to drink some of your hydration drink mix. Um, if you're not running, you should go leave us 5 stars and a very nice review so that your friends can find this podcast as well. It truly does help us. And until next time, we'll catch you out on the trails.